My name is Clint, and this is Yin Yoga plus Balance. And so, welcome. Like we start every week, let's all get up. And I'd like to say hello to Kathy. And you know, off the top of my head, I can't remember your last Kathy. Taylor. Yes. Anyway, Kathy is a yoga instructor, and she's also a Yin instructor, and she is from Johnson, Tennessee, and she has not been down here because of COVID for quite a while, so welcome back. And I will introduce Kate Spillane here in the middle in the back, who's going to sub for me in the middle of June. There's 3 weeks that Priscilla and I are going to be traveling to my daughter's wedding, our daughter's wedding, and then we are, we both want to get rid of her. But some of you may have met Barb. Barb's about 6 feet tall, and her fiance is 6'7". And at the yoga party that we had right after COVID, right after the first COVID we went in, I had a bunch of Zoomers over at my house. So anyway, okay, so to start balance, every balance is started the same way, and that is to get your body in as close to a perfect condition as you can get it. So get your feet about hip width apart, and your hips are 2 fist widths can fit in between your arches. So your hips are a little wider than that, a little wider, not narrower. No, you're okay.
Are you telling me?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just hit me.
Okay.
Very good. Put your fists together and see. Okay. What that does, that sets your femurs in your pelvis at the right distance apart. Your feet should be roughly straight ahead, the second toe. So you may feel a little bit pigeon-toed, but that's okay. That also helps get your femurs set just right. From here, lift your toes, spread them wide, and then place them back down. And see if you can grip your mat. From here, stand tall and isometrically drag your feet toward each other. And you can feel all the muscles in your legs, all the way from your feet, all the way up to your thighs, and even your glutes. Now, take your upper inner thighs, roll them towards the back, and then there's an opening that you just created. So tuck your tailbone under by tilting your pelvis, and you fill that up, and it gets your pelvis tilted backward just enough to help that lower lumbar spine gain that arch in your lower part of your back. From here, lift the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. That's this part here in the back, right where every man's bald spot starts. Tuck your chin in just a little bit. Gaze off at that horizon, and then lift your shoulders up towards your ears. Rotate them towards the back. Let your shoulder blades kiss, and then let gravity just take over and let your shoulder blades drift down. Your hands may be facing forward. They may be right facing on the top of your hips. It doesn't really matter. But from here, now relax those muscles that you've been engaging. And you can stay this way for many minutes without any difficulty at all, without wavering. You gain great patience when you're on a line for those happy hour drinks at the squares. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes and breathe in and out through your nose. Feel the floor pushing up into your foot. And then open up your eyes. Carefully bring your weight into your left foot. Come up onto your right toes. And then on an inhale, lift your right knee up. You should be gazing off at the horizon, or you can look at the floor or your mat, someplace in front of you that's not moving. You don't want to be watching the person in front of you wobbling around. And then grab onto that right knee with your right hand. And lift that knee up. Maybe you can have the other hand lift it even higher. What you're doing here, when you're balancing, you're creating additional connections between neurons in your brain, going from the left side of your brain to the right side of your brain, because this is an asymmetric pose. And then release. Step down, walk that out. Come back to Tadasana, and I always like to do the same process every time. So I get my feet in the right place, I take a really big inhale in through my nose, lift my shoulders up, let them roll down my back as I exhale. I'm already in the pose. Then bring the weight into your right foot. Lift that left knee up. Bring it up higher. This is your psoas doing the work. And grab onto that with your left hand. Maybe you can get that knee all the way into your armpit. If you want, you can add that right hand to help. And if you fall out, that's okay. This is a yoga practice. Nothing here counts. When you're doing this on the top of half dome, that's when it counts. And then release. Step that out. Okay, so from here, come back to Tadasana. Bring your knee up again. That's a good idea. But sure, maybe it would help if you get off of the mat. You can always go over next to the wall. And then bend that knee, bring your ankle over onto your thigh, like a gentleman sitting. And then maybe you can begin to bend that knee. If there was a chair behind you, you just sink right down into that chair. And you notice all the movement that you have going on in your body. All that movement is dictated by your fascia, your connective tissue, because your brain doesn't work quite that fast. And then rise all the way back up. Step that out. Shake that leg. Back to Tadasana. Weight into your right foot. Lift the left knee up. And that ankle or bend the, twist the leg so that you bring that ankle over the top of your knee, top of your right thigh. Your hands can be anywhere that helps you. Doesn't matter if they're in at your heart center or way out to the side. When you're ready, if you're ready, begin to bend that knee. I did this the other day at Publix, waiting in line for somebody searching through her purse for a second credit card that might work. And then come up and step that up. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do, I really like this part. I think we did recently, but I'm going to do it anyway. But lifting up your legs, you use your psoas, your hip flexors. Well, this time we're going to do a curtsy bow. And you're going to be lifting up your leg but backward. It always reminds me of speed skaters. And so I became aware of speed skaters when we moved to Minnesota just before the 1980 Olympics. But anyway, where did that come from? Okay, back to Tadasana. Weight into your left foot. Lift your right knee or your right leg up just an inch and bring that right leg behind you. And then do a curtsy bow like you're being introduced to the Queen of England. You can bring that left foot or that right foot way out to the left to work as balance. Your body will tell you where it's probably best to go with that. And if you touch down, that's fine. Try tucking your tailbone under. And then rise back up and step that up. Just uses different muscles. That use your glutes, which work in opposition to your hip flexors. So, last one. On your next inhale, weight into your right foot. Lift that left foot just an inch. Bring that leg behind you. And then begin to bend that knee. Do a curtsy bow. You're building strength in your ankles and in your glutes because balance takes strength and it takes practice. And then inhale, rise all the way back up, step that up. And we're going to go down onto the mat to start the yin part. So the first pose is just going to be a comfortable seated position, however you want. Your legs can be crossed in Sukhasana. You can sit back on your heels in Hero. They'll give you a nice quad stretch. after what I was doing this afternoon, I'm going to put a block underneath my sit bones. So rest here with your hands on your hips or on your knees or on your lap. Lift your spine tall. Touch your chin just a little bit. Take the crown of your head up towards the ceiling and allow your eyes to close. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and exhale it out through your nose. Take another cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your nose. Let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. Follow your breath here. The reason why you breathe in and out through your nose is that gives you about 20% more oxygen with every breath. Because with air coming in through your nose, your sinus cavities, before it rushes down the back of your throat, it builds pressure in your lungs. So you have about 1.25 atmospheres of pressure. And when you breathe in and out through your mouth, you have 1 atmosphere. So you get 25% more oxygen available. And since each of our lungs only takes in about 5% or 20% of the oxygen that we breathe in, increasing by 25% is a lot. On your next inhale, open up your eyes. The next pose that we're going to do some head rolls. But if you're seated cross-legged, stay where you are. Just change whichever leg was in front so that it is now underneath or behind. Sit up tall again. You can close your eyes because nothing important is happening outside of your body. From here, inhale, and then on your exhale, just let your chin bow forward. Don't push it, just let gravity take it down. Maybe you can feel the back of your neck stretching. Inhale, bring your head back up. This time, allow your hands to just come down onto the mat next to your hips. Maybe if it's more comfortable for you to have your palms come facing up, do that. But what I'd like you to do is not have your elbows stiff. That will activate your arm muscles and your shoulders. From here, look over to the right. Not as far the maximum that you can go, but a comfortable distance. Close your eyes and then let your head just begin to sink. Maybe your chin comes down onto your collarbone, maybe it comes close. But again, don't push it. You breathe into the other side of your neck. Maybe you can feel the muscles in your neck begin to stretch. Without opening your eyes, lift your head back up. Rotate your head off to the left. And then let your chin sink down. You can feel it a little bit more on this side. You should be getting some tension on the back of your neck, on the side opposite your chin. Your next inhale, come back to center. Inhale. And then exhale your chin down to your chest one more time. And from here, begin to roll your head over to the right so that your right ear comes on top of your shoulder. And then continue rolling it towards the back so that your nose comes up towards the ceiling. Again, you're not pushing hard. And then your left ear comes towards your left shoulder. And then back to center. And then go around again. And if you hear some snap, crackle, pops, that's your fascia. The coverings of your muscles, connective tissues that have begun to grow connections to their neighbors. When you come to your chest again, begin going in the opposite direction. And if you don't move your head to the maximum, every couple of days, those little connections become a little bit stronger. If they become stronger, they can eventually restrict your movement. Next time you come to center, pause. From here, reach your hands out, tent your fingers, lift your spine tall, and then begin. This is going to be a side bend. So your left hand can come up and just rest on your knee, but begin to side bend to the right. Drop your right shoulder going down, your left shoulder comes up. You can walk that right hand away. You should be able to feel a little tugging on your obliques in the front and in the back. You can feel your intercostal muscles that hold your ribs together. You can feel those begin to stretch. You may find that on the right side, the compressed side, you may have a little bit of congestion. And if that happens, you can always take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose, but all the way down into your belly, a diaphragmatic breath. That will use your diaphragm to push your organs down below your rib cage so that when the organs come back, you're more comfortable. On your next inhale, come back up. Bring your left arm out. Lift your head up tall, and then Begin to side bend to the left. Drop that left shoulder. Raise the right. Breathe into your right rib cage. Begin to deepen your breath. On your inhale, come all the way back up. From here, bring your hands behind your hips. Push your heels out and away. If you rock your feet on your heels, that will rotate your femurs and your pelvis, bringing more synovial fluid. And then bring the soles of your feet together into butterfly. Now, you can do this on a block if you wish. I'm going to use a towel just underneath my sit bones so that my pelvis tilts forward a little bit easier. I would recommend if you have two blocks, bring the blocks on the outsides of your legs and get them set up so that you barely feel these blocks. Earlier today, I did this and the blocks were all the way touching the mat. But I did some yoga and I loosened up. But those are there so that you can gauge how much softer you become. So inhale, lift the crown of your head up, tuck your chin, and then walk your hands forward, drawing your collarbones towards the front of your mat, the crown of your head towards the far wall. Your gaze is down at your feet or at the mat, and your knees are being drawn down by gravity. Breathe into wherever you feel those sensations. If you're grabbing onto your feet, that's a different class. That's a hatha class. In this class, you use gravity to provide all of the force that you need. If your arms are out in front and you can feel your shoulders pulling, stretching your shoulder blades towards the sides of your body, just bend your elbows and bring them back closer to your hips. Maybe bring your palms facing up, resting on the mat. And notice your legs, your groins and your adductors soften, being engaged more with those blocks. The way Yin works is that it doesn't work on your muscles. Even though I talk about muscles, it works on the coverings of your muscles, the fascia. Because as you age, your fascia shrinks more than any other body part. And as it shrinks, it constricts your muscles. It still gives your muscles the shape. It still gives your muscles the connections. But it's like if you wrapped your arms in saran wrap. It's very thin, but very strong. So you can no longer move to the maximum of what your range of motion used to be. And Yin is one of the few practices that can reverse that. And the way it works is you stretch into these poses about 70% of your maximum. And then
become still. And as you become still, your body realizes that it won't have to rescue you. And it begins to relax. And as those muscles relax, the tension from the pose transfers from your muscles into your fascia. And that tension stimulates your fascia, stimulates the connections of your fascia, and attracts the stem cells that are running around in your body looking for something to do. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, open your eyes, walk your hands back, lifting up your chest. Use both hands to help lift your knees. Bring your footprints onto the mat. Bring your hands behind your hips. Notice how your hips feel. And then measure whether your knees from left to right. And notice if one side is different from the other. Notice how your body works to bring normalcy back into your joints. Next time you come to center, pause. From here, come over onto your hands and knees. And to the delight of every man here, the next pose is shoelace. So if you really cannot do shoelace after giving it a try a number of times, you can always do reclining smile. But come into cat-cow over on the left side of your mat. Inhale, your belly drops, your chest comes forward. Exhale, your spine rounds, your chin tucks, and your tailbone tucks under. Inhale into cow, sit bones rise and separate. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, lift up your left leg, back towards the wall, step on that wall, and then bring your left knee behind the right. And then take your right foot off to the left side of your mat. Your right foot off to the, or the left foot off to the right, and walk your hands back. Now you may need a block to go underneath your hips. You may need 2 blocks to go underneath your hips. And I was at Bob Smalley's class. I'm glad he's not here tonight because he'll probably walk out. But somebody asked me about shoelace. What was it? Why did he hate it so much? And I had on a pair of shoes. I didn't have any blocks. But for the first time in my life, I was able to get my hips on the mat with no blocks. It shocked me. And anyway, I'm doing it again. So it just proves that staying with it for 11 years, I just can't wait for what it will be like in another 11 years. Okay, from here, if you have a block available, well, first off, just rest your hands on your hips. Close your eyes. Turn inside your body. And notice what's happening. This is a glute stretch. So it stimulates your glutes and your hip sockets. Now, if your eyes are closed, it's been clinically proven that nobody can see you. So you can just reach behind and feel your glutes. in total privacy. But you can feel where that tension is. And the remarkable thing about touching your body is that when you touch muscles that are really struggling, it will respond and relax. And you can always just go on your back and do a reclining smile. Grab a block if you have one available and bring it the tall way in between your forearms. Lift your elbows high so that your upper arms are roughly level. And then wiggle your fingers as you press the forearms together. Reason why I want you to wiggle your fingers is if you make a fist, your forearms become really tight. And it affects the whole pose. You're building muscles that draw your arms together. And then relax. Set the block down on the side. If you have a strap available, that's great. If you don't, that's okay. What I'd like you to do, if you do have a strap, just grab it. You can just bring it around behind your back so that it's roughly your hip width apart. Your hip width is just about where your shoulder width is. So reach your arms way back and then try to pull your hands apart. And then release, set that aside, sit upright, and then begin to walk your hands forward and observe, close your eyes and observe how this pose changes. Seems like it should be much more difficult. I find that it's a little bit easier, at least at first, until you find the right amount of tension and just pause there. Begin to deepen your breath. Walk your hands back. Bring your hands behind your hips. Let your legs come forward, or it may be easier just to roll over your legs. Doesn't matter how you get out of it. But you can cross again, wave your feet. The next pose is going to start from a kneeling position. So when you're ready, you can come over onto one hip or the other. Bring your feet around behind. You can also come up into downward facing dog, which I find the perfect counter pose for everything. Because you can stretch out your hamstrings, hips. And then gently lower your knees. And the next pose is half saddle. Now, saddle is a pose that really stretches your quads and is good for your sacrum. So we're going to do it on the right side. So just lean over onto your right side. Bring your left foot out in front. Now you can remain on that
right heel, you can use a block underneath. You can come all the way down onto the mat, or you can sit on a towel to raise yourself to the floor so that this is a little more achievable. If you can, move your heel outside your hip. But this is, it's a rotation, inward rotation of your thigh, of your femur in your hip side. It's also a great ankle stretch. And then sit up tall. Maybe this is all you want to do. Maybe you can bring your hands behind your hips and tuck your tailbone under. That will tilt your pelvis back, and it tilts your sacrum at the back of your pelvis. Your sacrum is 5 vertebrae that have merged together in your late 20s. And that's the series of bones that transfers all the weight from your spine into your pelvis. This is really good for the health of your sacrum, and maybe you want to come down even further. First time I saw somebody do this, I thought I was going to get sick. How could that be? But we don't have an awful lot of time here. This is a pretty intense pose. So come back up. Come over onto that left hip this time. And bring both feet behind. Come into table, do a couple of cat cows. And when you do your cat cows, make sure that your toenails are down. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, walk your hands forward and your knees back, and come all the way down onto your belly. And then come up onto your elbows. We're coming into Sphinx. So make sure that your elbows are directly below your shoulders. Your palms are flat on the mat. And the way every yoga instructor I ever met teaches this is bring your thighs together, your knees together, your ankles, your feet. That's not necessary. But get your feet relatively close but comfortable. From here, lift your chest and gaze at the mat in between your hands. Don't look at me. And then from here, push your toenails down. That will lift your thighs so that you're suspended from your hands to your elbows, to your pubic bone, to your toes. And feel all those muscles that are being engaged. Be your glutes, your spinal muscles that run alongside your spine, your thoracolumbar muscles, and then begin to relax the knees. They come down. Feel that softness. Maybe you can detect that relaxation moving in a wave. As your glutes soften, your belly comes down a little bit more. Your lower back softens. Your feet. And finally, just allow your head to fall forward. Maybe rock your head a little bit left to right. And make circles with your nose. Unclench your jaw.
Close your eyes and turn inside. Check to see if your glutes are still grabbing. And then on your exhale, release. Fold your arms, use your forearms as a pillow. Bring your right knee up towards your right elbow. Your head can turn either direction. You notice how this little itty bitty twist helps your spine. And going from that pretty strong back bend into a twist. On your next inhale, you turn your right leg back to meet the left. Come back up onto your elbows. This time, if you wish, you can bring your feet all the way out to the sides of your mat. Lift your chest high. Gaze between your hands. That will protect your cervical spine. Your toenails are down. And when you're ready, push your toenails into the mat, lifting your knees and your thighs. Isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. And feel those muscles that are doing the work. Those are the targets to soften. So it might be in your ankles, in your thighs, your hamstrings, your biceps, and then release. See if you can catch individual muscles softening. And then when you're ready, you can allow your head to bow forward. Just move your head enough to make sure that there's no tension there. Because if you have tension anywhere in your body, that will impede your other muscles from relaxing. Your body works as a team. And if one is being overworked, the others will stay behind and work with them. And yin will not work. You don't get the benefit of the pose unless your muscles have released. And then on your next exhale, release, cross your arms the opposite direction, turn your head the other way, and then bring your left knee up towards your left elbow. And notice where the sensations went. As you come into these counter poses, sensations migrate. A lot of times it's very subtle. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your left knee back to meet the right. Bring your hands next to your chest. Push the floor away. Coming up through the table. And into child's pose or frog pose if you wish. Now, child's pose, you can get your knees wide and bring your toes together. You can always bring a towel so that your knees can go out even farther. Or you can make this into frog pose by having your ankles parallel to the long sides of your mat. Your hands can walk out in front, or your hands can be back by your hips. This pose is a spine lengthener and a very minor forward fold. Whatever position you select, make sure that you can relax. Try tucking your tailbone under. That will lengthen your spine. And if you've never done it, just see what difference it makes. Seems like it's a lot of work. It is at first. But if you do it 3 times in a month, the next time just feels good. It becomes something that you do to help your body. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, lift your hips. Walk your hands forward into table. Do a couple of cat-cows. Really exaggerate this. And when you exaggerate this, it stimulates more synovial fluid coming into your shoulder sockets and your hip sockets, reducing friction even more. And the next time you come to center, pause. And then just sit back onto your feet again. And we're coming to saddle on the left side. So from here, just lean over onto the left hip, bring the right foot forward. And again, you can sit on a block. You can sit on a towel. You can keep that left foot, left heel underneath your hips. And if that left heel is outside your hips, you're looking down on top of the outside of your left thigh, which indicates that it's an inward rotation. So from here, this might be all that you want to do, or maybe more than you want to do. Bring your hands behind your hips. You're getting a huge quad stretch here, which is really good, especially if you do a lot of walking or running or pickleball. You can always lean back, tuck your tailbone under. You can feel an instant change in your spine when you do that. Or you can come down onto your elbows. Begin to deepen your breath. Nobody wants too much of a good thing. So when you're ready, come all the way up. Lean over onto your right hip. Swing that right knee behind. Come back over into table. Do a couple of cat cows. You can always lift one leg and then the other. Do what works for you. Your body knows better than anybody else what it needs right now, so experiment. And the next time you come to center, pause. Walk your hands and knees off to the right side of your mat. We're about to get into shoelace on the other side. So lift your right foot up and back. Step on the back wall with that foot. And then bring your right knee behind the left. Bring your left foot way off to the right side, your right foot way off to the left. Or just go on your back and go into a reclining swan. But from here, if you're halfway there, just walk your hands back. And if you need to raise the floor, use a block or a towel. And rest here for a moment. Seeing somebody yawn in this position is just wonderful. That is peace with the pose. I think that took me about 4 years, just before I stopped swearing when it was mentioned. You women just don't understand men's anatomy. And then grab your block. Bring that block in between the forearms. Lift it up high. And squeeze it. Wiggle your fingers to make sure that your forearms are loose, so that all the work is being done by your shoulders and your upper arms. And then on your next exhale, release. Set that aside. Find that strap or find your other hand around behind you. There is one disadvantage of not using a block. And in this, using a strap behind me, I'm tending to fall over backwards. I don't know if you are, but that's one of the difficulties. But anyway, from here, grab onto that strap and pull it apart. Lift your shoulders and drop your shoulder blades down and now pull apart. That really changes this so that you're doing it with your pecs, your serratus, and on your next exhale, release. Set that aside. Inhale your spine tall. Notice how your hips have changed just since you started sitting here. And then walk your hands forward. And again, catch your muscles in the process of transitioning. And if there's a sharp sensation, pause there. Breathe into it. And wait for that to pass. But you're seeking a place where those muscles can soften. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back. To extricate yourself from this position, the next pose is going to be starting from kneeling. So maybe the easiest is to just lift your hips, come forward into table or down dog. Walk out your dog. Get those glutes feeling chipper again. And carefully return your knees back down onto the mat. Do a couple more cat-cows. Next time you come to center, pause. Walk your hands and your knees off to the left side of the mat again. But no, you're not going to do another. No more shoelace. But from here, lower your hip carefully down onto the mat, your right hip. And your thighs should be roughly parallel to the front of the mat. This is going to be a spinal twist on your chest. And you can always use a towel up underneath your collarbones if you have a sensitive chest, or you can actually do this in a conventional spinal twist on your back. Either is okay. I like this face down spinal twist because it uses all the weight of your chest. And I find it's a little more effective. But walk your hands forward. And then bring your arms out to the side into T. Maybe your head can turn towards your right hand. That's not necessary. You don't want to stretch or stress your cervical spine. walk your fingers way up to the side so that you're opening up your shoulders. Maybe even tent your fingers, hollowing out your armpits. And then lower them back down. And just sink into your mat. And let gravity do its work. Okay, let's do it. If you'd like to modify this to intensify your shoulder, maybe walk your credit fingers on your right hand towards the front of the mat. Gets pretty intense, so don't force it. And if it's too intense, just bring that arm down by your side. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back next to your chest. Push the floor away. Come back up into table. And immediately walk your hands and knees off to the right side of your mat. And then come down onto your left hip. Face the front of your mat again. You're doing the other side. And then walk your hands forward. Bring your arms out into T. And just let gravity draw your arms down. Make whatever modifications that are best for your body. Not need permission to change the pose. You deserve to do poses that meet your body's needs. So going onto your back is better for you today
Go for it.
The only wrong pose is one that's uncomfortable and your muscles can't soften. So you don't get the benefit of it. So listen to your body always. The instructor in any yoga class is offering guidance, not demands. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back next to your chest. You're going directly into Shavasana, so you don't have to come all the way up into table unless you want to. So come onto your back for your Shavasana. And when you get on your back, draw your knees into your chest, give yourself a squeeze. Push your hips away. That will engage the small of your back on the mat. Then rock from your left arm to your left hip, right arm, right hip, back and forth, massaging your spine, or make big circles on the ceiling with your knees. Make sure you go the opposite direction because you'll satisfy the other muscles. And when you come to center again, release one leg out to the front of the mat. Push that heel away. Release the other leg out to the front corner of your mat. Push that heel away. Bring your arms out from your side. They can be right near your side or out in T or even over your head. Does not matter. But push your fingertips as far away from each other as they can get. Opening up your shoulders and your chest one more time. Relax them down onto the mat. Stretch your spine long, lift your head 1 inch, tuck your chin, and then carefully lower your head back down. Let your feet relax and fall wherever gravity draws them to. Take a deep cleansing breath into your nose and exhale through your nose. Take another cleansing breath into your nose. Exhale out through your nose. And take rest. I'll be coming around and adjusting some of you. If you do not want me to touch you, just wave me away when you hear my footprints.
begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes, to your wrists, and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze and rock from left to right or make circles. And the next time you come over towards the right side, pause there in fetal pose for just a moment. And do a quick scan of your body to detect if there is still any residual tension or stress that was not addressed during this practice, so that you can approach that later this week. And then using the strength in your left hand, push the floor away, rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga practice with me this afternoon. And thank you for spending time and effort to maintain the health of your body and your mind and your breath through the practice of yoga. Take the compassion and peace that you practice every time you step onto your mat. Take that everywhere you go and share it with everyone you meet. Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thank you for coming.